Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I decided to do a new updated list of my fictional crushes. Now, there's a few on this, and it's not a longer list. It's just a new version of the list, or some new male characters that I like. Now I do believe some of the ones I wrote down on here are ones I've already mentioned. Let's see, Tyrion Lannister I already put in the previous list for the same reasons. He's intelligent. I think he's a conversationalist. And I think when he wants to be, he can be really sweet. And he's a good husband. Now, I'm going more towards the show because I don't remember that well in the book since it's been a while since I've continued with the second book. And I do believe he is a little different and not as nicely portrayed as he is in the show because TV shows tend to sugarcoat things and, because it's all about likability. And apparently a character will not be interesting if they're not nice and likable. As you can see, that kind of bothers me when sometimes characters are changed in ways because, they might not be likable. The true version of them in the book is not as likable. And a good example of that is Tyrion's a good example of that. And then I believe in books like The Circle, some of the changes I get in the movie version, but they made May's character a little nicer and more sympathetic, and it's like, no, you're missing the point of the way her character is portrayed. If you make her nice, you're missing the point of her character. She's not a nice person. She's a very vain and selfish person, and it annoys me. The other one I think I already put on there is John Thornton from North and South. I think I already mentioned him. He's a period drama character. And he's handsome. He owns a factory, and he treats his factory employees fairly, I feel like, if I'm remembering. And he does have a bit of a temper. That's kind of, but so do I. I can have a temper too. And I feel like he is a mama's boy, but in a way that I think is okay, because he just loves his mom, and he has a sister, but he doesn't have much of a relationship with his sister. He can't stand her, I feel like, but he has a very close bond with his mother, but it's not in a creepy kind of way. It's not in a weird way. It's I feel like in a very healthy way, a way that makes sense, especially for the time period that his character exists. And and him and his mom, they're a lot alike. They're two very strong people, and very respectful people. And I can kind of understand. Sometimes I would roll my eyes at his mom and everything, and it was like, how dare you dismiss my son, and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I understand how she talks about how great her son is, because she's proud of him, and she loves him and cares about him and wants to see him happy. His happiness matters the most to her. And in that time period, and still in a lot of Asian countries today, I believe, the son had the male child had, especially the oldest male child, had the parent took pride in them, and they were the favored child a lot of times, because it's just how people thought, and it may not be, we may not agree with it today, but like I said, there are still some Asian cultures, both, I believe, in the Philippines and China, that's how it is. The oldest male child is the favored child. But their relationship is actually kind of enduring, and is enduring and very endearing and sweet. It would be hard being in Margaret Hale's position, because you worry that you'll never live up to the expectations of his mother. You'll never be worthy of her son. There's always that fear, which reminds me a lot of Cersei Lannister, and how she is with her children, especially Joffrey. The good news is that Thornton is not a spoiled child. I did not cry over his death. I was not sad about him dying. Next, I may as well go into another period drama character, and that is Colonel Brandon from Sense and Sensibility. Sense and Sensibility, out of the three Jane Austen I've read so far, is in second place for favorite Austen. Pride and Prejudice is first favorite because, yeah, I don't love it as much as a lot of people do, but if I had to choose, Pride and Prejudice would still be number one because I like the plot. And I like the romance. I'm just not, like, as obsessed with it as a lot of people are. And, but Sense Sensibility is second place because, like, it's an interesting story. I like the relationship between the sisters. But it's not my favorite. I couldn't really pinpoint why. It's just, like, not. Like, the story's not as interesting enough for me as Pride and Prejudice is. And I know, and obviously I'm not alone because there are a lot of people who love Pride and Prejudice. I'm not a hardcore fan of Pride and Prejudice, but I do like it. And Colonel Brandon is one of the love interests. And he's a character that's very serious, and very reserved and quiet, a quiet male person. And he keeps his emotions in check. He doesn't reveal his emotions. He doesn't hold his emotions on his sleeve. He's not, like, vocally passionate. In fact, Marianne in Willoughby kind of criticized him a lot and gave him a hard time, but he still stays loyal to Marianne. His feelings for her never go away. I mean, he's hurt by her words, but his feelings never go away. He continues holding out hope that she'll one day see him in a new light, that she could see him as a potential husband, or at least a friend, if anything, and she, for the longest time, she doesn't. It's not until the end of the story that she does. But he's also a good guy, and he's honorable and heroic, and, he's just a good guy. And he's definitely, and he deserves nothing but the best. He needs a good wife, and he deserves a good wife, a good, loyal, loving wife, and I hope Marianne would be that for him. And this is an old classic book, so, I can put in notes to spoilers, but you know what, it's been around for a long time. So I feel like if you haven't read the book, you've at least seen an on-screen adaptation of it. So, next is, so I must go back to the top here, and that is Will Lawrence from the Temeraire series. This is a series where what if they had dragons during the Napoleonic Wars, and our main character Lawrence was a Navy captain, but he ends up being bonded with a dragon whom he calls Temeraire. It's all about Temeraire and his relationship and how they fight in all these wars during the Napoleonic era. Lawrence, he's like Colonel Brandon, he's a soldier. He's actually a captain. And just like Colonel Brandon, he's brave and heroic and honorable. He's not as reserved as Colonel Brandon with his emotions. And he's a very caring individual, and he's a very strong-willed and strong-minded person. And and his relationship and his respect for Temeraire is so sweet and endearing, and I'm glad that he doesn't treat Temeraire like he's just an animal. He treats him, like an equal, like a friend. Like if he were his, his child. And he also loves to read, and if the fact that he loves to read is definitely a plus for me. Like, a guy who likes reading and appreciates it, that's a plus for me. Okay, so next is Hadrian Blackwater, who is a rogue of a character, and he's a thief. He is from the Rhaenyra Revelations by and the Temeraire series by Naomi Novak, by the way. And Michael J. Sullivan is the one who writes the Rivia Revelations. There are 3 volumes, and then he has written like a sequel series, and then there was, I believe, a prequel series. I believe it's a prequel. I have to look that up because I know there are more books. And in this world, you have Hadrian Blackwater is a thief. He's partners with Royce Melbourne, and they are 2 thieves for hire, and they get hired to steal a special sword, but little do they know that the sword is in the bedroom of a king who is going to be assassinated. And just as they get there, the king has just been assassinated, so his son, the prince, who's now the king, sees them there and thinks they're the ones that killed his father, so they get arrested. But his sister Arista knows differently and decides to send them on their way to protect her brother because she suspects their uncle, and release this powerful wizard from a dungeon who happens to be her teacher. Hadrian he's, like I said, he's a rogue, he's a thief, but he also has a heart of gold. He's the cliche character of a rogue with a heart of gold. He's a good guy and wants to help people whenever he feels that he should. When people are suffering or in need, he's willing to do that. In the second book, which is in the first volume, he helps these group of people that are being attacked by this beast. And he also cares and respects Royce. Now, they don't always agree, but Royce ends up, like, even if Hadrian wanted to help and help these people, Royce has the mentality of, it's none of my business, I don't care. But then he always goes and helps Hadrian when he knows that his friend is in danger and wants to. And I think he admires Hadrian's need to want to help people to save them and stuff. And he's also a hero in his own, and is a hero. He's a thief, but he's also has a heroic streak and an honorable streak, wanting to do the right thing. And plus, it doesn't hurt that he's good looking too. And he's also charming. The rogues in fiction are always charming, and, of course, I know in real life that wouldn't be the case, but as far as fictional characters go, fictional. So, next is one that is more of a moral character, and that is Prince Raoden from Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. Raoden he's another lovable character, but he has a better moral compass than Hadrian, as far as, because Hadrian, yeah, he's a thief, but like I said, he will do the right thing and help people that are in need. And that's the same thing with Prince Raoden. And so he ends up in this story, there is a city called Elantris that gets basically infected by this disease, and it's a city full of these people that had godlike powers, but then they get infected and their skin gets all blotchy and all dirty and stuff, and so they are outcasted. They're put under quarantine in a way, and Prince Raoden ends up getting this disease around the same time. He's supposed to meet his future bride from another country, and she's on her way. She decides to show up early and is on her way just as he's been sent to Elantris. And he is really good at adapting to situations like that. He tries to make the best of his situation and tries to look at the silver lining, look at the glass as being half full. Even when his first friend that he makes is a glass is half empty kind of person. But he doesn't give Galadin a hard time. He doesn't question sometimes he might get snippy with Galadin, but he never gives him a hard time. He never judges him for his pessimismness. And he always tries to be positive, and Prince Raoden always tries to be positive, and he wants to help these people and help them adapt and survive, and especially because they don't need to eat. They think they're hungry and they're desperate for food, but they don't need to eat. They're not really hungry. They just It's just instinct. It's habit because they're still human. And he's trying to, and he also wants to learn things. He wants to do everything, and he's good at learning things and trying to understand things. And he is determined to figure out why these people are in this position, what happened to them. Like I said, he's willing to, and he's good at working with others. He's willing to adapt and compromise. And I think he definitely would be a good king if and when given the chance. And who doesn't like a prince? One woman doesn't have, kind of like that, doesn't like a prince. Next is from the Witcher series, who I do not know I still do not remember how to pronounce this author's name. But I love Geralt's character, don't get me wrong. But I kind of like Dandelion a little bit more. His bard that follows him around all the time and he keeps bumping into. I mean, now, Dandelion can be selfish and vain, and, he's a bit of a charmer and a ladies' man. But he's still a nice guy, and who wouldn't want to be serenaded by him? And he really cares about Geralt and considers him a friend. And I admire when a guy, cares about his friends. That he's willing to put his friends' needs above his own, and he's willing to help his friend. I think that's really, I like male friendships in fiction, whether it's in a movie, a TV show, or in a book. I love reading about it, and I love seeing it on screen. And plus, he can sing. He's a bard. He serenades things. And he can be a bit of a chicken and everything, but he's deep down, he's really brave. He's willing to, put his life on the line. And his whole covering things up, his fear with humor, is endearing too. It's, I like when you see that in fiction when a character tries to cover that they're tries to hide their fear with humor. It's another character that is in Buffy the TV series. Xander does that a lot. He tries to hide everything behind his humor. Of course, that tends to get him in trouble at the same time, too. But, anyway, so I kind of lean towards Dandelion. Okay, this is an older one, and that is Ben Hanscom from It by Stephen King. I mean, I love Bill and everything, and I love all those boys, but Ben is my favorite. He's such a sweetie, and as I think it's Beverly who says it, he has the heart of a poet. And I believe he has a romantic streak about him. And even when he's just a kid, but when there's a bit of a love triangle, it's not, because of Stephen King, the romance isn't as prominent, which is a good thing. But, it's in there a little bit. You have this love triangle. Of course, they're like preteens, so they're just discovering their hormones and stuff like that. But you have both Bill and Ben are attracted. Although in the book they kind of imply that a lot, Richie also likes Beverly as well, but they both like Beverly, and she kind of leans more towards Bill because he's the brave leader of their group. He's troubled. He's the one who lost his brother into this, and he's willing to go after the monster. So he's very brave and heroic and stuff like that. And Ben is too, but she doesn't notice in Ben as much as she does with Bill, which is a little disappointing. I love Bill, but I'm kind of more towards Ben. And he has a pretty good job. He's an architect. He's very successful. Now, granted, it might have to do with the curse on their childhood hometown, but still, and he's also a good guy, and he's also another good boy, a good guy. like I said, he steps aside when he sees that Bev chooses Bill at first, at least when they're kids. So, and plus again, another male character that loves to read, that loves the library, and would rather go there, spend the summer in the library than, than spending this whole summer by himself, because of course he doesn't. In the beginning of the story, he doesn't have any friends. He's the new kid, and he's very shy and very sweet, and he hasn't interacted with the other kids just yet. But then he's taken in by Bill and his group, his gang of friends. He becomes a member of the Losers Club, and I just love Ben. And then I got 3 more for you guys. We have Locke Lamore, another lovable rogue. Locke can be very selfish, and he can be a jerk. But he also really cares about his friends. And eventually it might take him a while, but when he realizes that that Jean is disappointed with him and is frustrated with him and doesn't agree with him, he will eventually get around to realize, okay, Jean is right, and I should do the right thing. I think that, he cares about what Jean thinks about him. Like I said, it will take him a while to get there, to realize this, and to choose the path that Jean thinks he should choose. But he cares about that friendship. He cares about the people he loves. Of course, he's also one of those people that I think tries to ignore, push his feelings away. And so, but he's so, he's a bit of a thief and a lovable, charming rogue, a master of disguise. But I still can't help but like him, and he's also good at what he does, which is sad because he's a criminal, but he's an honor streak about it, and he doesn't not just. It's like a call. For him, it's a calling, which it's a weird calling, but it's still a calling for him. I mean, in fact, they have a god they worship. But I can't help but like him, and he tries really hard when he's in a position where he has to. Like, he tries to be a pirate, but he's just not very good at it. And he kind of, despite the fact that he's not good at it, he does remind me of Jack Sparrow a little bit, or Captain Jack Sparrow, in a way. He does remind me of him, except for where he's sober. Unlike Jack, who's permanently, I feel like he's permanently drunk. Or he's so used to it that he, So, next is an older one of the first fantasy book series, I should say, because not the first fantasy series, but the first book series, although unless you count, Goosebumps, for instance, that I ever got into and meant something to me, and that is Remus Lupin from the Harry Potter series. I love all the kids' characters, and growing up, I had crushes on the characters, like Ron and them, but I wanted to talk about the ones that I didn't talk about as much before, back when I was a kid. And like I said, and I was one of those people who at first liked Sirius Black, but, at the end, as I've gone older, I've come to realize how flawed Sirius Black is, and how selfish he can be. And he and Snape are not that much different as far as, their selfishness. In their unwillingness to let go of the past. Which is what Remus tries to do. He knows that even though he didn't directly bully Snape when they were kids, when they were growing up, he didn't do it. He realizes, and he admits that he's just sat there and let them do that to him, let his friends bully Snape. And he just sat there and went along with it. He didn't do anything. So he takes Snape's, his bullying towards him, he takes it because he knows he deserves it, because even though he didn't do anything directly, he still didn't do anything to stop it either. He guilty by association. But at the same time, And he even excuses Snape's behavior towards him. He defends it, but he also defends his friends too. So he's very loyal to his friends, and he tries to do the right thing and make up for his past. But he also is willing to let it go. And and also, I think he's one of Harry's best teachers. I mean, unfortunately, he wasn't able to stick around for long, but he was I think he was one of the best teachers that Harry had. Because he was, he knew what he was talking about. He understood the subject. And I think some of the other teachers that could have been potentially good teachers, like, for instance, a Moody or Snape, who was very passionate about the subject and had been wanting that job for so long. Snape was just so stuck on his own bitterness and his own frustration that he didn't even he could have been a good teacher. He kind of let that get in the way of his good teaching. And then he focused mostly on trying to tell his students to realize that their teacher is a werewolf. So they could ruin it. So he could ruin Lupin's reputation. And yeah, I hand it to Lupin. He takes it. He accepts it because he knows he believes he deserves it. He knows he deserves it because he didn't do anything to help Snape. And he does try to excuse it and is like, we were dumb kids. But he also, like I said, he also excuses the behavior and Snape's behavior as well. He also says that it's understandable the way he's treating us. Although he doesn't like how Snape's taking out his anger on Harry. Unfortunately, Harry's the only target available to Snape. And all Snape sees, I think, is Harry's father. And the fact that, Lily rejected him. So Harry's the product of Lily and James. So it's like... And he also, so back to Lupin. He was a good teacher. He always tries to do the right thing. And yeah, I kind of agree with Harry, his response to Lupin showing up and being wanting to escape and, wanting to run away from the fact that he got Tonks pregnant and now he's reproduced another potential werewolf baby. And I understand his fear. And I get why he decided he thought taking the easy way out was better than having to deal with the consequences of that this child might have to grow up with the same burdens he did, the same struggles, and becoming a monster, and that the first instinct is to run from that. I get that. But at the same time, I also agree with Harry that it was a little bit cowardly of him to do, but I also get why, and I feel bad for the guy, and I want to help. I would want to help him and tell him, be like, no, you need to be a better father than this. I know you have it in you to be a good father. And I also kind of ship his relationship. I kind of everybody has their non-canon ships that were not in the original story that they wish were in the original story, that they kind of see the chemistry and see how it could potentially happen. And that is how, and mine is Sirius and Remus. I kind of see I kind of agree with those that ship them. I could see that kind of relationship. And I feel like, unlike with Dumbledore in saying that he's gay, I feel like that I didn't see how she could have included that in the original story. And I think she would have a better time of showing that I guess in the 7th book when we start talking about his relationship with that one character whose name I cannot remember, even though he's the bad guy in Fantastic Beast. And I definitely feel like they could have included that in the Fantastic Beast story. Although apparently they don't. And I think that's a little cowardly of them. But, I feel like they could do more with Remus and Sirius. They could show that relationship more and that affection more, and that love, that potential love between the two men. But at the same time, a little conflicted because I still kind of hold Tonks and Lupin in my heart. I know he didn't. A lot of people point out some things that, yeah, I can see what they're talking about. And I can see their point about how he treats Tonks and everything. Like, I definitely get it, and how, or, well, actually, rewind. I think it's more about how she treats him and how she pressures him into a relationship because she has feelings for him. So, yeah, I think it's more on her end that people don't like that relationship because they don't like how she pushes him into a relationship. Now, for the two of them, I still kind of like them as a couple. I still kind of ship them. And I wish we had seen more of that relationship, because whether you think they're a cute ship or not, it would still been very interesting to see their relationship develop and see the struggles they have, and look at, and whether you agree that she pushes him into a relationship or not, to see that relationship, to see her, I think it would still be very interesting to watch. But I don't, like I said, Lupin's just such a likable character. And I've always had a thing for the professor-y types too. The shabby professor characters, the absent-minded professor type characters. I always felt that was interesting. And I always kind of have a soft spot for those male characters. I think that's kind of why I like in movie 3 of Back to the Future, when Doc Brown has a romance. I think it's so sweet and cute because, because if he was a little bit younger, then I would have crushed on his character. And I like seeing him in this relationship with Clara Clayton. I think it's really sweet. So, and that's who Lupin reminds me of, the absent-minded professor. Let's see, do I have anyone else? Oh, and one more character, and that is Clay Cooper from Kings of the Wild, aka the band series. Clay is a great character. He is good to all of his friends in the band. He really cares about them, and I feel like he's the heart of the band. He's the heart of the group. And all of the members, despite the fact that he's not perfect, and he feels like he abandoned the group and let them down, they still respect him, and they still value, and like one of them tells Clay that I kept fighting for you in a way. He believes in Clay, and the other character whose name escapes me at the moment, let me see if it's easy to grab the book. Okay, there it is. I'm grabbing the book because I want to get the character's name. It doesn't say it on here. It says it. What is his? Gabe. Gabe goes to him because he's the one. He knows that Clay is the one that will, if he joins and he helps Gabe find his daughter and gets the band back together, he knows that the other guys will join as long as Clay joins, which shows how much they respect him and they trust him in his judgment. And Clay feels really guilty because he feels like he abandoned the group, he let them down, and he ran away from them. He feels guilty, and the fact that he does shows he has a good heart, and he really cares about his friends and their opinions about him. He's also a good dad and husband. Like, he's one of the ones who actually has a stable life, and a healthy life. He's the only one. He's not divorced. He and his wife are still together, and they have a very sweet little girl, a daughter. And he's the only one that actually has a good life, a good, stable, healthy life, unlike the others. So, which shows how the kind of guy he is, and that he won't just easily get into messes and get himself into bad situations as easily. And like I said, he's a good guy. He's the heart of the group, like I said, and he really cares about the group and wants to help them. And it does take. I mean, it does take. He tries to walk away from this when Gabe shows up and tells him what's going on. He's hesitant to do this because he knows how dangerous this mission is. He's not as young as he used to be. Like, when I was reading this book, I kept thinking about the Toby Keith song that, like, it goes, I think it's the one about the bar. Like, I love this, like, where one of the lyrics says, "I'm not as young as once I ever was," or something along those lines. It makes me think of the band and the Kings of the Wild. They're not young guys, and he knows how dangerous this mission is, and he does not want to abandon his wife and daughter, which shows he's, also a good guy, and the fact that he cannot see himself abandoning them. He's a good husband, a good father, and it's his daughter being like, "What if it was me out there, Daddy? Would you go to save me?" And that's what convinces him to go with his friend and get the band back together, because he knows what that would do to him and how he would go through hell to save his daughter, just as Gabe is trying to do. Because the mission is the reason why he wants to get Gabe wants to get the band back together, is because his daughter, who's also has joined her own mercenary band, is trapped in a city that's under siege. And so he knows he needs his friend's help because he can't do it by himself. So being reminded that what if that was your daughter, what would you do? That is what convinces him to go join his friends and help Gabe save his daughter, or help her in this situation. So I just love Clay. He's the most put together of the group. But he's also funny, and lighthearted, And I guess that's about it. Those are all my crushes in fictional, and just in general, just male characters that I really like. I just like reading about them. And let me say that this is fictional characters that I just like. I know they're not real in reality. Some of them it probably wouldn't be a good idea, but because it's not real, we feel like it's safe to like these characters. I feel like it's safe to like these characters and to crush on them, even though realistically speaking, if they were in the real world, not all of them would be good characters to date. But I feel like because it's not real, it's fiction, so it's safe to like these characters and to fantasize about these characters, And it's not like, I would really date, like, some of these guys. I think they're worth considering if they were available to me in that way, in that capacity, but not all of them. Like, I know that in reality, Locke Lamore probably would not make a good boyfriend. Tyrion Lannister has the family problems. His family, you gotta deal with that. And I admit, it would be kind of awkward, for a more shallow reason, it would be kind of awkward that he's shorter than me. That I'm taller than him. Let's face it, we're all shallow in some way. You can say you're not, but we all are. I mean, unless you physically can't see, we all are attracted to things, people's physical appearance. And then let's see. Hadrian, maybe. I mean, he's a bit of a rogue and a thief, but that might be, would be one of the better choices. Dandelion, he's a bit of a ladies' man, like I said. Locke, probably not so much. Let's see. I think that's really all. The other ones, I think, I could, if they were real and in my life, then if I was in theirs, then maybe. But in the end, it's fiction, and I know that. But it's just kind of fun to think about what's a character that you enjoy reading about. I kind of can't help but have a little bit of a crush on. It's fun. It's fun to like those characters and to fantasize about them. And I'm not the only one. So that is kind of my new list, the new updated list of my fictional crushes. So I'll be interested to know who you guys have fictional crushes, if they're the same, if you feel the same way as you did when you during as when you watch my previous video, or if there's new ones on your list. I would love to know what those are. And if you like this video, be sure to click click the subscribe button. If you haven't already, click the bell notification below. If you're interested when I post and upload new videos, give it a thumbs up. I hope you're enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you later. Alright, bye!